landscaping, lighting, flowers, plants, blah, blah, blah. Once we do have some sustained warmth, they will add some flowers in those flower pots. The ivy will start to come back to life and it won't look so austere. And once that ivy changes in the fall, it looks very nice. However, you fast forward 20 years here to your right, we have an entirely new neighborhood called Kinsey Park, which as you can see is situated about 30 feet back from the river as to include these public promenades with riverwalk and landscaping. The city of Chicago, developers, and the residents are no longer looking at the river here as being that nasty little stream. We're trying to embrace it and view it as the city's second waterfront. We have Lake Michigan to the east, the Chicago River runs through the heart of downtown and many of the outlying neighborhoods. And the quality of the water in the river has vastly improved over the past 25 to 30 years. And it has been upgraded from being highly toxic to just polluted. So we are working on it slowly but surely. Now, the townhomes here to our right are fairly new, built between about 1998 to roughly 2002. And yes, they're nice, but one of my problems with them, copy, cut, paste, 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 copy, cut, paste. In the background, repeat, 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 repeat. You've seen one, you've seen them all. Don't go home drunk, you won't know what unit is yours. All they had to do was use a different color brick to divide up the units, maybe rotate some of the brick to get a different porous line, maybe some of the doorways or windowways could have been arched, maybe some varying roof heights, just kind of break up the flow a little bit. But it is a great improvement over what was there before. So we're making our way back here towards Kinsey Street, and you'll notice around most of these bridges there will be some wooden posts sticking out of the water, out of the river. They're called pilings, and they help protect the mechanics and structures of these bridges from boats slamming into them and throwing them out of whack. When the piles are clustered like this, they're called dolphins. Well, back in 1992, they had to replace some of the pilings around this particular bridge because of age and rot. And what happened was they accidentally drove one of those pilings just a wee bit too far into the river, puncturing the roof of an old freight tunnel that goes under the corner of this bridge. Of course, eventually the roof of that tunnel did give way, causing millions of gallons of river water to rush and flood into those tunnels, flooding practically every basement down in the loop. That incident shut down the center of the city for about a week, cost more than $1 billion to clean up, and many of those basements weren't dry for about a month. Marshall Fields on State Street, not Macy's, Marshall Fields, had fish swimming in the basement. You just look up the Great Loop Flood of 1992. The railroad bridge here in front of us on the diagonal, I've never ever in my short lifespan with my own 4 eyes have ever seen this bridge down. Now that it's been down, I know it can go down, but I've never seen it down. The reason they keep it up is because when it's closed, the clearance here is only about 6 or so feet, and boats will not be able to pass freely below it. They would have to have it manned 24/7. It was built back in 1908 by the Chicago and Northwestern Railway Company. It would not be torn down because it has been landmarked. They test it once a year to make sure that it's still operable. Originally, those tracks went all the way out to Navy Pier. We have this slender sliver of a building directly here to our right called River Bend by DeStefano and Partners. So we just have the row of townhomes and mansionettes here along the base. Above that are a few floors of parking. Then above that we have the tower units. Now you see and saw how very skinny the building is. The reason it is so skinny is because there's some train tracks go directly behind the backside of this property, causing the land to be very narrow. So narrow there was not enough room to construct ramps to access the parking garage. You've all been in garages, you know you need a wide turning radius. So instead, they designed elevators in this space to lift the cars onto the floors where they're then parked. If you had taken this boat tour 2 years ago, you'd have not a problem seeing the train tracks directly here to our right. But once again, we do have more new construction. The building going up to our right actually won't be getting any taller than you see right now. This is called River Point, designed by Packard Chilton Architects out of New Haven, Connecticut, rising to a height of roughly 732 feet. But phase 1 was decking over the train tracks here, which they have done. The porthole-like openings are fans to ventilate the diesel exhaust from inside that tunnel. On top of the tunnel, you're gonna have an 1.5 acre landscape plaza, which will be open to everyone. Again, right now, they have pulled out a pane of glass. They'll turn it around, they already have turned it around, and they'll just lock it into position and bolt it into place. The building itself has about 1.1 million square feet of office space. Now, I know everyone's jaw is dropping about this next structure coming up. As soon as we clear the double-decker Lake Street Bridge, I will get into it. This is the oldest of the double-decker drawbridges in the Spanish Chicago River here from 1916. But coming up here to our right, the building that we see, it just goes by its address, 150 North Riverside Plaza, designed by Getch Architects. The shape of the building is not just for aesthetics, but here it is also form follows function. There's a small sliver of land right here where they could build the high-rise, where they could sink in the foundation, because on the other side, there are 6 to 8 train tracks going to and from Union Station. So the engineers had to come up with a very unique way to support the building. As the central concrete core rises in height, that steel framework flares out or cantilevers out and then rises further up. It's like an oversized tuning fork. So they have deck over the train tracks in the background as well. And between this new office high-rise and the residential building back there, which was originally an industrial building, a warehouse building from 1924, there will be an 1.5-acre landscape plaza that will be open to the public. So 2 office buildings side by side. We have approximately 2.3 million square feet of office space and 3 acres of landscape open public space. Not bad. As you can see here, we have the headquarters to Boeing, the plane and aerospace giant that moved to Chicago back in 2001. The building itself is from 1990, designed by Perkins and Will. Now, this building also has some very interesting engineering feats because those train tracks pass beneath. Under the last 4 bays, here at the base, those tracks crisscross one another. Very dense. Not a lot of room to drill the caissons or foundations to hold up the very tall buildings. Now, under the southeast corner here, right along the river, not a problem. But under the opposite southwest corner, problem. Train tracks, no room for the foundation. So instead of being supported from the bottom up, that corner of the building is being supported from the top down. As soon as we clear Washington Boulevard, if you look to the very top of the same building we have just passed, you will notice there's a steel truss system up there that's being anchored to the east side of the building along the river to help support and suspend that southwest corner. That southwest corner is what you call being cantilevered. Think of a diving board for a swimming pool, where one end of the diving board is being anchored to the earth, but the board hangs out freely over the water. The slab of limestone here to our right currently goes by the name of 2 North Riverside Plaza. I like the original name better. The Chicago Daily News building, as it was known, was completed back in 1929. You have the beautiful bas-relief carvings here in the limestone wrapping around the base. This is one of the first office buildings to include a public plaza in the design of their structure. The Chicago Daily News was a huge newspaper company in this city. They unfortunately folded back in 1978. But once you clear Madison, if you keep your eyes to the right, behind the old Daily News building, there's a taller Glacier building back there, 500 West Madison. The some say remind them of an oversized cash register. Others said that building kind of remind them of a waterfall. Completed back in 1987, it was designed by German-born Chicago-based architect Helmut Jahn. So I've mentioned the train tracks several times, and now here to our right underneath these structures, you can clearly see them. All the buildings here to our right along the river are built atop air rights. And that means the developers, in fact, bought the air above the train tracks from the railroad companies in order to build and develop buildings above that space. The support columns, they just come down on either side of the tracks here, right in the middle of the train platform. That's not unusual at all. If you go to New York City, you drive up and down Madison or Park Avenue towards Grand Central. For the most part, many of those buildings built atop air rights because the trains are below grade. So we just passed Gateway Center 1. Here to our right is just its twin, Gateway Center 2. Again, the tracks lead to and from Chicago's Union Station. That's a short, classically inspired building, a quarter of a block to our right here in the background from 1925. Now, I know that most of you all are not from Chicago, but perhaps you have seen these buildings on TV, you may not realize it. If any of you all have ever seen The Untouchables from 1987 with Sean Connery and Kevin Costner, there's a scene at the end where you had the baby stroller falling down the stair steps in a shootout. That scene was filmed inside of the Great Hall of Chicago's Union Station. Originally, the structure was supposed to have 20 additional floors on top, but because of the Great Depression, that plan was never carried out. Right now, Amtrak is trying to raise funds to restore some of the public spaces within Union Station that have been closed off for half a century. At one time, there was a beautiful grand concourse for Union Station that stood directly here to our right. But in the name of modernization, it was foolishly torn down in 1969, replaced with the architecturally uninspiring Gateway Center 3 here in 1971. We also have this little short 4-story building that currently houses the Health Club and Corner Bakery, but originally it was home to the Mid-America Commodities Exchange. Now when you have an exchange, normally you have to have a trade.